So good morning, class. Who here has been deployed? All right, if you've already been deployed, you're already somewhat aware of the battle effects of explosively formed penetrators in the battlefield and how dangerous they are. If you haven't been deployed, that's exactly what we want to talk about today. I want to talk about EFPs. I want to talk about the basic components that make them up, how the explosive works, the type of damage you can expect to see from an EFP, and then the placement implementation or the terrorist strategies, how they're being utilized against us in the field. Alright, so looking at the basic components of an EFP or a basic explosive in general, it's going to have some sort of explosive fill. Typically, it's going to be a homemade explosive. It's going to be in some sort of container. For EFPs, you're typically looking at an aluminum sleeve or a steel sleeve, and that's going to be capped with a convex copper cap. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that convex copper cap and why it's convex, and I want to talk about how the EFP is working. It's also going to have some sort of power source, some way of igniting an explosive fill inside. You're going to have some sort of a trigger or initiator. Some of the common methods of setting off an EFP or an IED is like would be command wire, such as a pink squishy terrorist hitting a button. Victim activated, such as a pressure plate, where the vehicles are going to roll over, activate the explosive themselves. And passive detection methods such as IR sensors. So looking at how the EFP works, I'll talk about that convex copper cap. If you've ever taken a metal hanger and started bending it back and forth, in the middle where that hanger is bending, it's going to get super hot. That's because the molecules are going through a lot of friction. It's going to create a lot of heat. Same thing's happening with this convex copper cap. Copper is very soft metal, so it's going to bend and become very pliable very easily. And when the explosive fill sets off, it's going to basically bend this copper cap over itself. It's rapid compression that is going to superheat this metal slug, and that's where you're going to get your deep armor penetration. Typically when the slug ignites and is flying through the air, you're going to get smaller pieces of it breaking off, creating shrapnel and other fragmentation on the outside of the vehicle. So looking at the damage that this EFP is capable of, the pictures on this slide indicate a U.S. M1114 vehicle that took multiple EFPs. You see the large hole, the initial slug left, and smaller pocket marks on the outside of the vehicle, and the armor plating glass where the fragmentation hit. This next slide indicates a wrecked police vehicle was hit by an EFP. You see the initial explosive itself was large enough to knock out the glass out of the vehicle, as well as the inside of the vehicle was burned up. It's very common with that superheated slug to see secondaries from incendiary damage. Looking at the placement implementation of EFPs, obviously, if we can see them and detect these EFPs and avoid them, it's going to be very counterproductive for the terrorists. So typically, you're going to see these items camouflaged in some way. One of the common methods we see these camouflage is through they'll wrap them in styrofoam casings, trying to make them looking like natural rocks or bricks inside the landscape. They're going to place these fake rocks and bricks beside roadways where major convoys will be coming through. Some place they can try to target our armor. Not uncommon to see complex attacks with IEDs and EFPs, with having multiple EFPs or IEDs in conjunction with each other, as well as the units taking small arms fire, RPG fire, while terrorist militants trying to maneuver that unit into a better placement with preset EFPs. So now I hope you understand some of the dangers of the EFPs on how they're going to affect mission planning as well as basic troop movements inside the field, and how dangerous these EFPs can actually be whether you're in armor, especially if you're just a troop walking by. So to review, I've talked about the basic components of the EFPs, how they work, damage that they're capable of, as well as basic planning and implementation for terrorist use against us. Thank you.